We are live. It's time to live different.
Welcome, everybody, to the It's Time to Lead Different live stream. My name is Collin Dayley. I'm the CEO and Chief Catalyst of the Circle Leader, North American lead for Circle Leadership Global. And my partner today is, as always, is Dave Clare, who's the founder and CEO of Circle Leadership Global, and who's a master leadership magician. And today, we'll ask you to get out your.
It comes with a wand and everything. It actually
exactly. Yeah, we'll ask you to perform later.
Okay, perfect.
In the meantime, today, actually, this topic has kind of been bouncing around, and I think is a conversation topic within a lot of the groups that both you and I are involved in. Dave, is employee and team engagement, and what that means. What the implications are for sort of the dire state of employee engagement, and really what I think maybe what we should focus on is what can we do? How can we how can our clients or the people listening to this maybe turn the tide a little bit and create that deeper sense of engagement with their teams and their people? So maybe let's start, Dave, and give me your sort of state of the union with employee engagement and team engagement, and kind of let's define the problem first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think let's define engagement first. Like, what is employee engagement?
Right.
So when you think of that concept, like, what is employee engagement? Is it everyone's happy around here, Collin? Is that what it is? Is it we've got ping pong tables and foosball tables and beanbags? Is that employee engagement? What is employee engagement from your perspective? Then we'll talk about the state of the nation.
Yeah. So, ideally, right, employee engagement is where there's a sense of connection between their individual purpose and the organizational purpose, and where there's a sense of personal buy-in with the culture, so that there's shared responsibility, shared commitment, and shared vision for future. And so I think you say it, and I'm going to badly botch this, but they need to be able to see where you're going, so they can see themselves in. Yeah. Give me that statement again, because you do it so well.
So when your people can see the future of the organization, they can see themselves having a future in the organization, right?
There you go.
Which goes a long way to developing the engagement. But I guess for me, when I think about employee engagement, it's like, and I always use this as a simple example. When two people get engaged, to get engaged is to propose marriage to, right? It's like, oh, we've got engaged, right? So we've been engaged now. Usually when someone proposes marriage to someone, it's usually because they love them. Mm-hmm. So right. Engagement is about, do you love where you get to do the work that you get to do the work that you do? Do you love the work that you get to do? Do you love to do that work with the people you get to do it with? So when I think about engagement is like, is there a sense of meaning here to the work that I'm doing? And right. Even more so, is there a sense of meaning to the organization in which I'm doing it in?
Right.
Because I've used it to people, like, if what engages you is you get a paycheck. Well, you can get a paycheck anywhere. Why would you choose to get it from here?
Right.
Right. And so when I think about engagement, Collin, firstly and foremostly, it's, do you love the place where you work? Do you love the work that you get to do? And do you love how it makes you feel that you get to do that work in this organization with, then you can add into these people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So to me, that's what engagement is. And it's, we've always said that, people want their lives to be more meaningful. So our role as leaders is to give them work that is meaningful, full of meaning. Right.
Right.
That's what's to create engagement. So let's get very clear. That's what engagement is. So now, what is the state of the nation around that concept of engagement? Well, Gallup and Deloitte and all the major consulting firms do their annual surveys every year. And what they find, and the numbers haven't changed, dramatically in any time, is that at least 70 to 80% of the workforce are disengaged in the work that they're doing. About 70% of the workforce are disengaged, and another 17% are actively disengaged in the work that they're doing. So you get about 70% of the workforce showing up just to get a paycheck, right? And the other 17% that's there are actually what I would call subconscious saboteurs. They're just trying to find ways to not do work, or possibly sabotage the way work gets done there, because they're actively disengaged. So there's a difference in being disengaged, I'm just not connected,
Right.
or actively disengaged means I'm trying to mess them up.
Yep.
And then you've only got about 13% of the workforce then that is actually engaged in the work that they're doing. So when you think about that, and then I assure you that if you did statistics on some of the leadership that's out there, that you will find that maybe you have a high percentage of the leaders as well. So we might have the disengaged leading the disengaged.
Right.
And so when you think about that, like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And there's whatever numbers you want to throw at it. 87% of stats are all made up, and 64% of the things you worry about in life never happen. Right?
Yeah.
It's just that it's costing businesses globally trillions of dollars in lack of employee engagement, right?
Right.
You go do your own research, look at your own studies, find whatever you want. But the fact remains that there's a very high percentage of people who are not happy in the work that they're doing, or actively doing things to sabotage that workplace because they're really unhappy there.
Right.
And so then what do we do, Colin? We go, well, let's just pay them more, because we think that paying them more is the answer. So now when you go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe let's dive into that before we get into what solutions would be. Yeah. What do we think that the cause is? Because it's not all one-sided, right? I mean, people are coming to their work with a certain attitude, or certain expectations. Do you think that there's how much do you think is fully responsible for leadership to creating, and do you think it's even possible to get to 50%? Because right now, I mean, you're, like you were just pointed out, it's more like 13% engaged, actively engaged. How would is it even possible? And what do you think about that? And
I think it definitely is. It is absolutely possible. When I interviewed my friend Gary Ridge from WD-40 while he was still at WD-40, now he's chairman emeritus of WD-40. But he was sharing their statistics, and they had the longest running thing of, like, it was like 97, high in the 90s engagement at their organization. Like, they survey every year, and so it is possible. Like with our clients, we run an engagement survey at the very beginning of any process that we start with our clients, and then 6 months in, and then 12 months, and then every year for them. And we have them, a lot of organizations we're blessed to work with already have reasonably good cultures and great engagement in there, like 70% or whatever, 70 to 80%. But then there's historically, they're all getting in the high 90s now, right? So over the years, it is possible to do that, right?
Okay,
and
good.
So yeah, it is. Now, does it mean that it's going to be easy? Hell no. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in a lot of organizations,
right,
to do that. Now, also, what I would also find, and once again, to play with the stats a little bit.
Yeah.
Those companies, that the Gallup and Deloitte and all those people they survey, are they the larger organizations? Do they survey the small mom and pop shop type businesses, where you have a lot more closer connection to the humans that you're working with? Do they have, you got to factor in all that sort of stuff. Like, and, we primarily deal with 50 to 500 sort of size employee type companies, and where the leadership's not too detached or too removed. But if you go into the 10,000 to 20,000, do they feel, possibly, are they just a expendable commodity, a means to an end, a cog in the machine? Right. Then they're probably going to feel that way.
Like they show up that way, right? So
they feel that way, so then they're going to show up that way.
Yeah. So
reward, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But what I hear you saying, then, it is possible to really dramatically, just with the input of culture and leadership, right? Or I should say, leadership-driven culture, right? Intentional culture. It is possible to transform an organization from actively disengaged, to fully engaged. I mean, as fully as you could be, 70, 80, 90%, right?
Let's call it highly engaged. Yes, but so here's the challenge. In a lot of once again, this is why I said you got to look at where the numbers all play out. If a lot of those organizations are publicly traded organizations, what is the CEO's primary function in most of those organizations? To drive what?
Revenue, profit,
shareholder value.
Yep.
Right? And they have a short-term thinking to drive shareholder value.
Yep.
So for an organization like that to go, hey, we're going to invest in, looking at our engagement of our employees and stuff like that. The short-term thinking is, yes, we're happy to do that, but not at the expense of driving shareholder value.
Right.
So it would take a really impressive leader to be willing to go, hey, I know that if the more engaged our employees are, engaged employees create engaged customers create engaging profits, if you wish, right?
Sure. Right.
Drives engaging shareholders in your business. And it's not a formula that's new to the world. It's been around for a very long time. So but once again, it's just given platitudes in many organizations, because as soon as the crap hits the fan, what do? We go straight to, how do we make money here?
Right. Yeah.
That your happiness is secondary to us making money right now.
Yep. Yeah. We have to hit our number.
Meaningfulness, your engagement is, because if you don't want to do it, Collin, I'll find somebody else who will.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's kind of an especially in those large publicly traded companies, it's sort of an undercurrent of the culture. Where it's a privilege for you to work here versus for us to work together. So yeah.
So here in Australia, back many years ago, we had this thing called the Royal Commission on Banking and Finance Industry, the finance industry.
Yeah.
And one of the chairmen of the largest big four banks here came out and said, hey, we understand there's a problem with the banking culture in Australia.
Yeah.
But please understand, it's going to take 10 years to change that culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? That tells me one of two things. One, either they don't know how to do it, or two, they can't be bothered doing it. So if they throw something out so far that the next news cycle, we will have forgotten the fact that banking culture needs to change.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it's going to take a long time, so we can be patient. We won't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they just don't want to be bothered to do what it would take to do it. So we know that if we do it, it will be forgotten, which is pull the blanket over it and people will forget, or they just don't know how to do it. Now, I'm sure they probably know how to do it. I just don't think they can be bothered to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, they're kicking the can to future administrations, future leads. Yeah. 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 So you were about to,
the problem is that we have this disengagement, right? So we understand what engagement is. We now know what the problem is. So what is the impact of that problem? So how is that impacting, forgetting the trillions of dollars and lost productivity and all that?
Sure.
Let's talk about right in the workplace, Collin. What have you seen in organizations where you feel there's a sense of disengagement through your experience? You've worked in an organization. I'm sure you've actually been disengaged in some of the organizations you've been a part of. What is actually some of the side effects, if you wish, or the downside to poor engagement in your organization, excluding the trillions of dollars of lost productivity?
Yeah, right. Excluding that. Well, I mean, let's just say, as characterized by the term poor morale, bad, and negative attitudes.
You've got a really bad attitude around here, Collin.
Yeah, right. Drama triangles, gossip.
Yeah.
Lethargy, right? People, a lack of responsibility. So, details and in work streams and systems, fall through the cracks. Details are not paid attention to. So, those are just some of the things. Plus, just open hostility, harassment, between employees, competition between teams, for resources and for attention and acknowledgement. The list goes on. I mean, it can get really nasty. And
sign me up for that.
Yeah. So, so people just don't love to do that, right? Except for, sociopaths. But, it's an environment that, people call hostile or toxic. And then they start to look at their leadership and their managers or bosses and say, that's a toxic leader. And more than likely, it's not his or her problem. It's the whole group's problem. They're feeding off their own negativity. So that's been my experience, Dave.
Yeah.
Sounds fun, right?
Oh yeah. Sign me up for that. I can't wait to work at that organization. I'm like, geez. But it's interesting, right? So it's almost like, at first the leadership creates the environment in which that disengagement can happen, right? Because please understand that I don't think anybody jumps out of bed in the morning and goes, geez, I can't wait to do a crappy job today. Geez, I can't wait to be irresponsible today. I can't wait to sabotage the company today. Right. I don't think anyone gets out of bed with that desire.
Nope.
But we create an environment where it becomes conducive for that to happen. And then when we don't do anything about it, we we get the behavior that we reward. So we're rewarding toxicity in our organization or disengagement.
Right.
And then we go, well, and then your high performers will do one of two things. They'll either go be absorbed by the system, or they'll go, bugger this, I'm out of here, because it's not how I want to spend my day.
Right.
High performers or top performing human beings do not want to be in an environment where people are just doing nothing or getting away with it or shuffling paper to look busy today.
Yep.
Or what they do is they think, well, if they can get away with it, well, why am I doing all this hard work to?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Drag everybody else along. Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember one time in my career back in the days in banking and finance, and they were doing a round of redundancies because the organization needed to downsize a little bit, or right size as they called it.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking for volunteer redundancies. And a whole bunch of people put their hands up. And so I put my hands up, said, look, hey, I'll take one. Mm-hmm. And they let a few other people go, and they came to me and said, sorry, Dave, we can't accept your voluntary redundancy. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And they're like, because you're a top performer and we don't want you to leave the organization. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice. So am I getting a pay rise? Am I getting anything else? I'm like, no, I'm not getting. No. And then couple of the poor performers who were in our team got the voluntary redundancies, and then they got a job the very next day working for a competitive bank, plus a $50,000 payout for their redundancy. So I'm saying, hang on a second. I went to my leader at the time. I said, so this person has just left and that person just left. You've just given them $50,000 for poor performance to their job paying equal, if not more, at the other place.
Right.
And you've told me I can't have one because I'm too good a performer and you don't want to lose me. Where is the incentive in that?
Right. Yeah. How does that improve my morale?
Exactly. And then here's the icing on the cake. I now had to pick up the slack of those two people who left our team.
Right. Yeah.
I get rewarded with more work because I'm a high performer and I can have more capacity or capabilities to achieve more.
Yeah.
And then we wondering why top performers then decide, like, bugger this, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
And that was a real life scenario for me.
Yeah.
I learned so much at that moment there, like why employee engagement is so critical in your organization and to retain those top performers in your business. Because the people you end up pissing off the most is the top performers.
Right. Right.
20% who produce 80% of the results. Right. So
now
that's the sign. So
yeah. One other outcome that you just brought up for me is that top performers. So you were really quite gracious in speaking to your manager about your concerns. Most people just simply say, that's it, I'm done. And they actively start quitting, and they go find another job, or they go create their own job, or it becomes a real drain on your business because they're no longer your top performer. So I mean, and you don't even know it, right? You just,
quiet quitting was all about.
Yeah,
like you get these people who just like, I've quit, but I'm still here until I find something else.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. So part of this is this concept. I guess these days they call it the Great Detachment, right? So there was that great quitting, the quiet quitting, that happened, right during and after COVID. But now
I love all these names we have for these things that happen, right? The Great Resignation, the quiet quitting, the Great Detachment.
Right. Well, but now, what's happening, and I've heard some people talk about this, that people are actually equipping themselves, workers are equipping themselves with the ability to make their own incomes on their, on the side. Yeah. And so they need their employers less for the money, right? And they're willing. I've also heard this concept called the tours of duty, especially younger workers, right, are looking at their work life as a tour of duty, right? So they're going to go do a tour, put together some money, go have an experience. And in the meantime, they've got their own sort of, income streams outside of work, outside of, their employed work going. And so they have, quote unquote, flexibility and options. Talk about how we, as leaders engage, those people who are just kind of detached from the old structures of employment.
Yeah, so a while ago, I did start doing a lot of research on like the gig economy, what they call the liquid workforce, and one of these wonderful names that the big consulting firms come up with for this stuff that's going on. Because if we can't label it, we can't call it a disease, right? The drug defines the disease if you don't, right? So you have to put a label on it. Go, oh, this is the disease that's happening out there. So liquid workforces and the gig economy. And but some of that stuff I think is actually what you've raised is just what I would call the future of work and the future of, the way people are going to work and live, is that, the world is getting smaller. So you got to take a lot of other stuff into context here. It's that we can get to other places faster. People want to experience the world more. They want, more purpose, more meaning in their lives. They want their lives to be meaningful, like surprise. Our generations would just be like, we were going for the work-life balance stuff. My dad worked to live as the boomers. And then this generation here is getting to work-life integration, that I want to do work that's meaningful to me, that fits into my life, not how do I fit my life into work or around work. And so this is what's going to be happening. And so leaders have to understand this, that also this concept, remember, jobs for life. So this is where, this careers and all that, where tours of duty, I think, is a really cool concept that, hey, I'm going to work with your organization maybe for 6 months, it could be 3 years, could be whatever. Then I'm going to bugger off, and then I'm going to go do and explore an adventure. Then I'm going to go work somewhere else for a bit. And in the meantime, I've got this, at least, so my survival needs are being met by this passive income stream I've got. And then I get my holiday fund or my joy fund from helping provide value to your organization.
Right.
So once again, in a war for talent, because now we have to have a label that we have to say there's a war for talent on. Yeah. Or the great return, where people are having to return back to offices and all this sort of stuff, is that we want to be able to attract the best talent to our organization. But understand that talent, the best talent, will not stay forever. If you look like a sporting team, do you think that the top performer stays in any organization, in a sporting team, forever? You have the franchise players.
Rarely.
But, rarely. It'll be there for, a period of time, 8-10 years, maybe at max in sports teams. Yep. You also have people who are traded all the time.
Yep. Free agents who are freelancers. Right. Yep.
Yeah, and they might just be on a 2-year contract or a 3-year contract, and and that's going to happen in business more and more. But it's how do we get those people to want to come here and bring what they can bring to our organization, bring their best self to our organization, and then help them become more of that. Yeah, and then maybe in years' time they come back around to us. But to accept the fact that this whole concept will, going back to the old days, well, what if we spend all this money developing our people and they leave, to the other adage of being, well, what if we don't and they stay, right? So your organization is going to bring these people in to bring some value to the organization, add value to them in their life for being here, and then understand that once that value is received and transferred, then that they may move on and we'll bring somebody else in.
Right. Yeah.
But that would be by design rather than default, because it's happening by default now in most organizations. Sure. Yeah. If you're doing it by design, it's a big different thing, right?
Yeah. So you and I haven't talked about this, but you bring up an interesting point that is part of the cultural framework through the core values, or even the purpose and the vision. Yeah. The new world of work sort of looks like. So maybe as leaders, we need to start thinking about how to facilitate that for our top performers. How to create those scenarios where they can. One of the key indicators of engagement is and desires of employees is help thinking about and developing their career path. And a lot of times that means maybe work or career path outside of this organization. So maybe that's an opportunity. What do you think about how we as leaders start thinking about like the whole person, not just the employed person? What do you think about that?
And what's our definition of leadership, Collin?
Yeah, for while they're in our care and beyond. So it's about
helping other people become the best, do the best while in our care and beyond. Yeah. And what does that say? That we care about you as a human being first and an employee second. Right. So imagine if I sat there and say, hey, tell me about what your future looks like, what your goals are, Collin. Where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years? Right. What are the tours of duty that you're doing? And where do you want these tours of duty to take you? What would and like, okay, while you're here, then let me show you how by doing this work here can add to that you want to achieve in your life.
Right. Yeah. So interesting though. I mean, that as a leader, right, that it feels like it takes away some control. But does it? Yeah. Tell me, what do you think?
Well, see, here's the difference between leadership and management. Management says, what can I get from you to make me look good? And a leader says, what can I give to you to make you look good? And so in order that I don't need to control you, what I need to do is give you the frameworks in which to exercise that thing. Because also those top performers from a leadership point of view, they want autonomy. They don't want to be controlled. They want a sense of autonomy. Steve Jobs told us all that, hey, hire people smarter than you, not so that you can tell them what to do, but so that they can tell us what to do, right? So, like jobs are not like jobs, but like that concept is sound. So why bring people in and then try to control them? What we want to do is give them frameworks in which they can operate within, so they know what to say no to, as we've discussed before in the past. So everything else they can say yes to, and we just have to work out, is there a better yes? And between what we know and our experience and their value that they're bringing in their wisdom and experience, we can work together to find out, hey, is there another better way to do this? And you can have that sense of autonomy, because people want a sense of autonomy. They want a sense of direction, right? And they want to know that they matter. So how do we create that where we go, hey, you can do whatever you need to do in this framework, right? Anything inside that, it's going to be yes. Anything outside that, it should be a no. And if it's a no and you want to bring it in, let us understand why, right? So help us, go another way. But fundamentally, I don't need to control you. I just need to give you the parameters in which you can operate within and let you go and do your best work.
It seems like the whole idea of what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So taking that same idea and applying it to the role of the leader, right? And working as a leader within a framework versus a set of managed tasks, right? Working towards objectives. So actually the leader, him or herself, can experience that sense of, because I've actually been in roles, and maybe you have as well, where I was given a title and given the responsibility to quote unquote lead or manage these people and these teams, and I was put on point to deliver results, but I had no authority to make any decisions, right? I still had to ask
power, no authority.
Right, exactly. I still had to ask permission for everything. So somebody else was, pulling the strings, and I just had to catch all the Dewey, that came down, rolled downhill. So
keep all the credit, take all the blame, have all the power, and no authority.
Right.
So once again, sign me up for that leadership job.
So I guess
this is why organizations work. Like we're not making this crap up. This is actually what happens out there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But I love what you're talking about. So from a leader point of view, like you imagine having the tools where you could actually become more of a coach, not a boss, and help your team to become their best, and help to cultivate a culture where everybody's lifting everybody up, not one where it pushes people down or creates a ceiling where people only have one option, right?
Yeah, man. I tell you, that's the thing. Really the concept, and maybe in next week or in subsequent week, we'll talk about the concept of coach, not boss, and actually the idea of helping leaders transform themselves from managers or quote unquote leaders to coaches, and to and think about what that really means, because what you're talking about here is leadership, collaborative leadership that is designed to support the betterment of the human first, right? And so, and then also to be, very values driven and connected to, underlying purpose, but, staying focused on that. So I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? If we,
but you touched on the last point that I would like to make anyway, which is, King Arthur created his round table because he felt men to feel like men, they must be first treated as equals. So in organizations today, for people to feel like people, they must first be treated as equals. You might have a different role to me, and I might get paid, remunerated differently because of my roles and responsibilities that I have. Right. But we want to create all around leadership, not a sense of top down leadership, and that where everybody answers to something first, not to someone. Right. And that's the purpose through the lens of the values. And when we can create that organization, people can feel like we're all on the same page and we're all being treated equally here, whilst you're remunerated differently because you have different roles and responsibilities and objectives. Now I'm being delegated an outcome or an objective to accomplish and not tasked what to do. So you're saying, hey, here's what to do. Tell us, how can we do that? We're getting people involved in the work, involved in decisions about the work now. And then all of a sudden they have a greater sense of meaning. So, wow, they're empowering me to make smarter decisions, and they're giving me an outcome achieved. They're letting me decide how to do it. And then they're going to just coach me to a better yes if it's not quite where it needs to be. So I can bring my best self to work, become more of what I'm capable of, complete my tour of duty, and then move on to the next thing that I want to do.
Right. Yeah, and it benefits the employee, and it benefits
Sign me up for that.
yeah, amen. Sign me up for that too. Yeah, and actually, that's what we are passionately focused on, helping our clients achieve, making the transition and breakthroughs necessary to actually create those cultures that foster those, those deep, meaningful connections and relationships. So,
yeah, it can be done. You can build it.
Yeah.
It is possible. The
Yeah.
road to significance is paved with inconvenience, though. So please understand, yes, it could cause some inconveniences, but when you get there, it will be significant because your engagement will be at the highest levels, as we talked about, right? When you have that high level of engagement, the higher level of engagement of your team members, guess what? The higher level of engagement of your customers or clients.
Right.
The more engaged your clients are, the more work they'll want to do with you, the more they'll refer business to you, the better your business will be. This is not rocket science.
Not rocket surgery, but it definitely it requires energy, commitment, and the willingness to actually put yourself, extend yourself beyond your limits. So,
which is why we are out there looking for the mavericks, the entrepreneurs, the trailblazers, the revolutionary leaders who understand that this is the crazy, that this is what it's going to take to win the war for talent, to attract the right people on their tour, because I want to have the best team that I can get. And if I can get the Navy SEALs on my tour for this particular thing, and the Green Berets on that one, and the CERT from Canada on this one, and wherever the Australian Special Forces here, the SAS there, like I'll take all those different tours, because I know that while they're in and out, and I'm having the best of the best come in and out of my business all the time. Right.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, we've come to the end of our time, but thank you so much for a great lively conversation, and for diving into some big ideas and big concepts. For those of you who are listening or watching later, if you have any questions, you'd like to learn more, you'd like to engage in a conversation about how to improve your employee engagement, and maybe how to reframe and refashion your cultural approach, you can reach out to us, LinkedIn, and at circleleadershipglobal.com. And we'd be more than happy to be of service to you in any way we can. So, with that, Dave, any final thoughts, and we'll wrap up.
Employee engagement is not beanbags and foosball tables, all right? And it's not just do people feel happy around here, and it's not like, does it feel like a college dorm room? It's how culture is how people think and feel around here, right? And if you want to have great engagement, then it's going to take more than just having a really cool workplace. Yep.
And it can be done. So.
100%. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, mate. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom as always, mate. Appreciate you.
And thank you all. We'll see you again.
See you.